All right, choose your race. Catman. All right, we got Catman Barbarian, Catman Rogue.
I'm the scat man. Skibbity-bidi-bop-bidi-bop.
It's like, well, now I understand why there are furries. Because I'm a cat man. Skibbity bop 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 bop.
Squee bop 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 bop. Squee bop 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 bop. Greetings, listeners. Welcome to episode 33 of the Lasercomb Podcast, the weekly show where we comb through random episodes of classic TV shows with a fine-tooth laser. I'm The Siege, one of your hosts.
And I'm NeoCal, your other host.
And this week on the Lasercomb Podcast, we are continuing on with our current Patreon themed month. So the theme of this month is we are reviewing shows as chosen by our Patreon subscribers at the $10 and up tier. So if you want to get in on that in a future Patreon themed month, go to patreon.com/lasercomb, LAZORCOMB. This week we are reviewing our longtime listener and Patreon subscriber, Cone Killer Confuser.
Woo!
Woo! We are reviewing his pick this week, and his choice was the 2011 Thundercats series. Thundercats was a animated series in the 1980s. I never watched it. I was aware of its existence when I was a child, but
Big same.
But I just never watched it for whatever reason. This series aired in 2011. It lasted one season. It was a remake of the 1980s cartoon, and this week we are reviewing episode 6. As always, we put the show through the random number generator and landed on episode 6, which was Journey to the Tower of Omens. And you're not going to forget that, because they mention the Tower of Omens and the Book of Omens numerous times throughout the episode.
Oh, yeah.
It originally...
And the Sword of Omens and the Gem of Chitara and there's a lot going on.
And the Eye of Agamotto and
the Eye of the Tiger. I'm surprised there's not a gem in this episode called the Eye of the Tiger. You can make so many cat jokes with this show.
You right? Could, and I'm sure we will over the course of this episode. Oh, they're coming. This episode of Thundercats originally aired on August 26, 2011. 11 years ago now.
I was going to say, I was like, wow, 2011 is... Wait, that's as close to 2000 as it it is now.
That's a good point, yeah. 2011 was as close to the year 2000 as 2011 is to now. Jesus Christ.
That means 2000, the year 2000, was just as close to the release of Skyrim as we are to the release of Sky. Make Elder Scrolls 6.
Now
Microsoft owns Bethesda now, so
no, they're too busy working on Starfield and delaying it. Shit got delayed recently.
I swear to God, give me Starfield or give me Elder Scrolls 6.
And then Fallout 5.
Stop just releasing different editions of
Skyrim. Stop repackaging Skyrim on like every I'm sure like smart fridges can run that shit at this point.
I've seen a video. It's probably people hacking it, changing the card and whatnot. But I've seen it run on like those high-end big stainless steel smart fridges.
Yeah.
Or they were lying and they were playing a video or streaming to it.
Well, someone undoubtedly has put Doom on it, because people put Doom on everything.
Don't scientific calculators run Doom?
Yeah. I've seen like big like office like printers and fax machines, like the little like LCD screens that are on them. I've seen people running Doom on those.
Amazing.
So, like I said, I never watched the original Thundercats when I was a kid, aware of its existence, but just never really checked it out. Maybe saw an episode here and there, but I don't remember anything about it. And I got to be honest, I didn't even know that the show was remade back in 2011. So, well, here we are.
Big same. Yeah. We were both like, oh, what did Cone Killer Confusor choose? And we were like, there's a 2011 Thundercats.
It's when you go back to it's like when you start deep diving into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise, and it's like, oh, I remember that, the cartoon from the 80s to the 90s, and it's like, oh, yeah,
like a one in the 2000s. It was like
like an
graphics,
like an early, like 2003 or something. But then you look, and it's like, no, there have been fucking so many Ninja Turtles cartoons.
There's been more Ninja Turtles since we stopped watching Ninja Turtles than there have been in our pre-adult lives.
Yeah.
Which is weird because our millennials that were into gaming and pizza and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like, they had like an advertising deal with Pizza Hut. They were in every commercial. If it was like after school television, you couldn't not see a TMNT, a toy commercial.
Right.
Commercial for the show or product or like Pizza Hut. It was everywhere.
Yeah, Ninja Turtles.
It made me want to go to Pizza Hut.
Do you remember? Speaking of Pizza Hut, do you remember when they first introduced? This is completely off topic, but do you remember when they first introduced stuffed crust pizza, and like the ad campaign for it? The commercials were all like one of them had I think it was Ringo Starr on it, and he was like, "Yes, and we eat our pizza crust first."
Oh my god! I remember that. Was that Ringo Starr though?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
As a kid, it's just a British dude, right?
Well, I mean, Ringo Starr was also the original Mr. Conductor on Shining Time Station.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't have known that.
For a little while, and then he was replaced by George Carlin, who I think was more memorable in that role.
Yeah, I didn't even know George Carlin wasn't always in that role.
Yeah, I think for the first couple of years of Shining Time Station. Funny enough, too, I found out not a little while ago when I was talking to some British friends of mine, Thomas and friends. The Shining Time Station framing device is something exclusive to PBS North America. So they took episodes of Thomas and Friends and added the whole like narrative framing device of Shining Time Station with Mr. Conductor and all of that onto pre-existing episodes of Thomas and Friends. The Shining Time Station is just a North American thing.
Huh.
Wild, right?
That is a little wild. It reminds me of MXC, I think it was called.
Yeah,
Most Extreme Elimination Challenge.
Yeah, on Spike TV back in the day.
But it was something like Takeshi's Castle or something like that.
Yeah.
And those were like heavily edited for like a North American audience too. So now I'm wondering what like weird different versions we got then.
Right.
Yeah. You lied to me. It's like when somebody when I was a teenager was like, oh, well, Sailor Moon isn't Sailor Moon because in the original Sailor Moon, like this character and this character are gay. And they like heavily change it.
Yeah, I remember reading about that when I was a teenager, actually, in Wizard magazine. Them talking about the lesbian relationship in the Japanese Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's circle back to Thundercats. So
we're talking about heterosexual cat relationships.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
We'll get into that more too, pretty soon here.
Oh yeah.
So the episode opens with the main dude. I think his name is Lion-O.
Lion-O Jr. just Lion-O.
Lion-O convoy.
Right.
So Lion-O is he's got a sword and he's essentially trying to open his third eye.
Oh, he's trying to open his third eye. Basically, there's a gem in this sword, and it gives him true sight.
Yeah.
But it's not really working.
Yeah.
And the rest of his crew, their names are Chitara. Panthro is like the big grizzly guy. And
the big gray dude, yeah.
Yeah, the big gray dude.
So the big gray dude, I don't know who voices, like I don't know the name of the guy who voices him, but
right.
The guy who voices him, do you remember the Clerks cartoon that only lasted 6 episodes?
Yeah.
It would always open with a dubious disclaimer at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the guy who voiced that is very, whatever his name is, but the guy who voiced that opening disclaimer at the beginning of every episode of the Clerks cartoon is the guy who voices this big gray dude. So anytime he would speak, that's all I could think of.
Oh, it's the same.
It's the same dude.
Guy.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, and so what are they? It's Panthro, deep voiced guy, Chitara, and Tigra. Really creative. They took big liberties naming these cat people.
I mean, to be fair, like these are all characters from an 80s cartoon that was probably created to sell toys.
I'm not complaining. I mean, like, we review Beast Wars, and their names are literally like Rhinox and Cheetor and Rat Trap. So these are actually a little bit more imaginative than what we're used to.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
And so what are we? They're sitting on like a tank, their car, and they're just kind of watching him, and they're like, give him time. You know, he's got to get his confidence back, because we mentioned this is like early on in the first season, and they're giving him time, and eventually Chitara,
Tits McGee shows up on screen behind him to give him a pep talk, and let me tell you, I was not prepared for how hot I was going to find sexy cat lady here.
No?
No. And as I kept watching the episode, I started getting this nagging thought in my head, like, is this how people become furries? Because to spoil to skip to the end of like if I would tune in next week, sexy cat lady is enticing enough for me.
And here's the thing, because we're used to reviewing anthropomorphized gals and guys.
Hey, I grew up seeing Black Arachnia, okay?
Didn't make you want to fuck spiders, but that was the balance, right?
Yeah.
That was the thing. If she was like a cat, right, or like a mammal of some kind, maybe you would have flipped over to furrydom. But
possibly.
You hate spiders.
But
Black Arachnia is hot, and that pendulum was in balance, and you didn't make the you didn't make the jump to furry or leggy. I've never heard of or met anybody that is into that. But yeah, let's call them furries. But Chitara, she comes up behind Lionel, speaks in a raspy voice, lidded eyes. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and it's that will they, won't they, like dangling the carrot, or again, this is the only episode we watched. It's already established that they're partners, and based on the kid's reaction, yeah, I think they are. But yeah, she's speaking into his ear, and she's like, "Relax, it's okay. Not being able to use your sword happens to everyone." And yeah. And indeed, there are 2 children that run up. I guess they're kids in this, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Ooh, you guys are smooching. That's what adults do."
Yeah.
And he says to the kids, "No, we weren't kissing. We were just trying to get my sword to work."
I know. I burst out into laughter when I heard that. I was like, I was like
they're not even trying to hide
double
the
entendre.
innuendo.
That double entendre, like that can't be an accident.
No, that is so direct.
We're just trying to get my sword up, you know.
We're just trying to get my sword to work, you know. That's all. Anyway, she gives them she gives the kids a rundown of this of this ancient order that made a book so powerful.
Yeah, the Book of Omens.
The Book of Omens, that it has everything to do with the past and everything that has yet to come available to it, but under the wrong hands, this could be pretty bad.
Right. It's a book that grants you the whatever you need to defeat your enemy.
Yeah, whatever you need.
I'm just
answers.
Listeners, I just went and saw Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness yesterday, and there's a book in that movie with that's summarized as being it'll give you whatever you need to defeat your enemies.
And essentially it's, you know, it's vague enough that everybody's after it, but they don't know technically what is in it.
Yeah.
It's just there's information so important that an entire nation went to war over it, and this nation set people off to go to the journey to the center of the earth to hide it through waterfalls. They made D&D traps that we're going to get into. You know, I was expecting dinosaurs.
Yeah, the Book of Omens, housed in the Tower of Omens, on the Mountain of Omens,
in the Dungeon of Omens,
in the Dungeon of Omens, in the Land of Omens.
There's a lot of omens.
On the planet of Omens. Oh God.
The planet Omen Star. Omen Star Persei 8. But what's going on here is they're all like, well, that's weird. And then we cut to Snarf. Snarf's different than I remember. Instead of being an annoying, like, fat little mascot,
yeah,
it's kind of an adorable, like, just little mascot that makes like cute cat sounds.
Yeah,
much better design from the 80s.
Yeah, I only know of Snarf because I think there was an episode of Family Guy where they made fun of him.
I know Snarf because of Imagination Land in South Park. Snarf,
okay.
Snarf! And so I'm most familiar with that. But this Snarf, I like this Snarf.
So Snarf is like a based on what you're telling me, I'm getting the impression that the original Snarf is something of a Scrappy-Doo or Batmite in terms of being an annoying character.
Yes, but a little less involved with the plot and just kind of on the side to go, Snarf, Snarf. Are you sure that's a good idea? Way less annoying than Scrappy-Doo.
Oh, okay.
It's just, he's just a fat, like, little dude. But in this, it's like a little cat monkey creature. Way better. What was up with that in the 80s and 90s? Particularly the 90s, having annoying characters.
I actually listened to an episode of Canceled Too Soon recently, a podcast I really like, which I was even on an episode of. But they were talking about it was a cartoon from the 70s. I think it was called the New Adventures of Batman and Robin. But it was a sequel of sorts to the 60s Batman show and had the voices of Adam West and Burt Ward as Batman and Robin.
Okay.
But there's a character in that, a character from the comics too, but there's a character in that show named Batmite, who is this little, like, chubby, like, little, like, interdimensional being who wears a loose-fitting Batman costume, who is just a really big fan of Batman. And and so on that, they were talking about, on that episode of Cancel Too Soon, they were talking about that trope of having, like, annoying little creatures. That was really common in 70s and 80s cartoons.
Ew, what the heck is this?
Did you look up a picture of Batmite?
I just looked it up, listeners.
Yeah.
How did I not know this existed?
I knew of the character Batmite. I don't really know a lot about it, but yeah, on that episode of the podcast, they were talking about the trend in cartoons in the 70s and 80s, in particular, of just having an annoying like little creature or supporting character,
A
and
little annoying mascot.
yeah, a little annoying mascot, and what they speculated was that maybe the idea behind it was people who made the cartoons wanted older kids who are watching it to kind of relate to it in terms of having like an annoying like younger sibling who's always hanging around
to hit those the different age range.
Yeah. So
right, so that kid could shut up and watch the show with their sibling.
Yeah, and the older kid who is watching it will be like, man, that's just like have my annoying little brother over here. He like won't shut up and won't go away.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So that the older kids can relate to having an annoying kid that wants to do things with them all day, every day.
Yeah, and then the younger kid who is watching can relate to always
being small and annoying.
Being small and annoying. And wanting to like hang out with like your cool older sibling.
Well, I gotta say, Thundercats, at least the newer one, not only is Snarf not annoying, I really like it. Particularly a certain screenshot I took later in the episode that actually killed both Siege and I.
Yeah, it's gonna be the episode art for this this episode of the podcast.
The body, the bulk of this episode is easy to talk about in quick mentions. It's a pretty cool D&D dungeon.
It's a D&D campaign, and I mentioned to Cal in the preamble, I'm like, this episode felt like a D&D campaign, like straight up. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
No.
Even in the slightest. But I got mad like D&D campaign vibes.
Oh, I'm stealing things for this from this nice. For my game. Absolutely. Shamelessly. Nobody's watched this. But yeah, they're going across. They enter this like dungeon because Snarf had knocked a bunch of fruit down and vines, and they found a secret entrance. So Snarf 1, Sword of Omens 0. And at the end of this long bridge, which is the pit of spikes from Mortal Kombat.
Right.
Just way too many spikes. Like the bridge is like 6 feet wide, but the room is like 300 feet wide, full of spikes. I'm like, who's gonna fall in the spikes 200 feet off the bridge? And I guess above the bridge, going towards the locked door on the other side, are a bunch of keys hanging from like threads or wires.
Right.
Seems like a lot of work was put into it. And of course, what do? They're like, oh, I see. Well, we don't have time to try all these keys. So Chitara knocks them down. She has like Goku-san's like extendable staff.
Right.
She's got a staff, Chitara, and it can shrink and go long. She's good at making swords work and poles enlarge. And what can I say?
I was gonna say she was making my staff go long, if you know what I'm saying.
And to deviate onto the show in general, character design, good.
Oh,
they all look differently. I really dig their armor, their silhouettes, and their markings.
Oh, I gotta say, I fucking loved the animation style in this. Like the animation's
great. I was going to not like it. It's kind of great.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I love the look of this show and the look of the characters.
There's a happy medium between anime and Western animation that I call like I've mentioned this on Lasercomb podcast like multiple times before, but that kind of like Western like take on anime that's like streamlined, in Flash and then like vector format, And the shading in this, like, the one-tone shading and all the silhouettes, the very solid black line art of it, I dig it. I would go and see these guys live if they came to a punk show. And indeed, a quick Google search revealed like it's pretty easy to recreate a lot of their face paint, a lot of their looks.
Right. Yeah.
And like you said, like, hey, it's probably toys. Why would they make a show and not try to get a toy licensing deal, right?
Well, and I don't know if the original show was based on a toy line or not, but like most cartoons,
that was the trend, right?
Most cartoons in the 80s were just half-hour toy commercials.
Yeah,
like that's
it has to be the original. It had to have been.
There had to have been a toy. It had to have been based on a toy line.
Yeah. And yeah, what's happening here? Our gargoyle guy is like, we don't have time to try all those keys, and then Chitara does anyway. And of course, because this is a D&D dungeon, the first key she tries, well, guess what? Now the bridge from the entrance is like rescinding. What's the word? It's going shorter and shorter. It's Indiana Jones.
Receding.
Coming towards him. Receding. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Panthro's like, Chitara, what have you done? I've been waiting all episode to say that.
Chitara, what have you done?
And much to everybody's like maybe shock, it just keeps coming. And luckily they're all really strong cats, and they all just form like a human ladder. They all just hang on to each other.
Yeah.
Way harder to do in real life.
I was gonna say, like you see that in movies and TV quite a bit, and I can't imagine for the life of me that especially the person at the top who is holding on, I can't imagine. Realistically, I can't imagine they would be able to hold all of that weight for like
5 people.
Like,
oh man,
even more than like a second or two.
I can hold my own weight, like limp, not pulling myself up and down. I can't do pull-ups to save my life. I can hold my own weight, and I can pull myself up from a ledge laboriously. You know what I mean? Like, and so I couldn't even imagine like 4 more guys hanging off of me. I'd be like, well, it was nice knowing you.
Yeah. But so long, Gabe Bowser.
So it's you or me, little buddy.
Come on, let go.
Kick them in the face. But they're cat people with extreme athleticism, as oh boy, do we get to see a lot more cat people athleticism. But the little cats, the children amongst the group, they climb up and they're like, why use a key when we could just like pick the lock? Yeah, and indeed, on their first attempt,
that made me chuckle.
They pick the lock, and it's like, maybe they should have stopped and talked for 10 seconds. And as a DM,
yeah,
a dungeon master, let me tell you how accurate this is to an actual game of D&D, where it's just like, what could have prevented this? Just turning and being like, hey, does anyone have any idea how to get in? But nope. Anyways, the door opens.
While this is going on too, there's an evil wizard guy.
We forgot to mention, yada the best part. There's an evil wizard, and that's when it's revealed that the world is not only magical and full of D&D traps, it's sci-fi.
And
it's like high tech.
He has a car that looks like if you took the tumbler from the Dark Knight and put it in Mummies Alive. Because it's got like this big like face on it.
I dig it.
It was fucking dope looking, but like while I was watching it, I'm like, so it's the tumbler by way of Mummies Alive.
Yeah.
Remember Mummies Alive, listeners?
Remember Mummies Alive? We only mention it every other episode.
We will undoubtedly review an episode of it.
We've talked about it so much that it's become part of the Laser Comb like mythos.
Yeah.
At this point. So what's the next D&D trap? It's pretty stereotypical, like Skyrim, like Dungeons and Dragons. There's a hallway. They walk. Panthro is like, oh, easy peasy. Now we just have to look out for traps. Blades come out, almost hit him. And their solution is this is when I was watching and I was like, I think I know why Christopher's gonna like this. Their solution to getting through this trap, sending the hot one to just run really fast for it. And indeed, indeed, her thing is that she has supernatural speed, and they're yellow like flash lines. You know how Flash leaves that red streak behind him so that the viewer can, it's like hockey coverage highlights.
Yeah,
there's like an aura or a glow applied to it.
And, yeah, just a motion blur behind
a motion blur so that the viewer can follow it. And she gets to the end and activates some sort of mechanism or whatever, and all the blades stop. And one of the guys is like staring at her, and he's like, "Wow!" And is I think it's Lion-O, and Panthro is like, "Oh, like eyes on the prize" or something like that, and like nudges him. There's
really
lots
you
of
couldn't really like you couldn't get your sword to work earlier. What's wrong with you?
To work, and
couldn't get your sword up,
because let me tell you, my sword is activating right about now. And indeed, it's not that she just runs fast through the traps. This is why I knew Christopher would freaking like this. The camera lingers on her doing acrobatic splits, and
yeah,
she's athletic, folks. She's athletic, and she shows midriff, and she wears tight leather, low-rise pants.
Yeah, that has a I swear her her
they emphasize her
they emphasize her cleavage a lot. But I swear like the line of the opening of her shirt like goes down further and further as the episode goes on. Maybe it was just wishful thinking.
It's wishful thinking because as Christopher thinks that her cleavage is, and by the way, they do animate her chest like a lot. That's why before we started recording this episode, we were like, is this for kids?
No.
Or is this for kids and furries?
I think this show is for, because this was 2011, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I feel like this show was made for people who were kids watching the original.
And have grown up to be furries.
And have grown up to become furries as adults. And that's who this is made for.
Well, you know what?
So we got.
I'll save it for the end.
Yeah. So we got sexy cat lady in tight leather, open
breast
midriff,
physics better than like Dead or Alive games.
Blonde hair, great tits with fantastic breast physics as you feisty. Has kind of a raspy voice. Like I said, this is how people become furries, folks.
Live on air. Christopher's discovering something about himself, people.
It only took 37 years.
Only took 37 years, but we got there. See, the more and more you realize that, because I remember like 4chan, yiff in hell furries, and like it being this big, like terrible thing. The more and more you become comfortable with it, when somebody calls you a furry and you go lol, and you just shrug it off, that's when you've like crossed the line. Doesn't mean you're a furry. It's that you have now crossed the line into accepting that it's okay.
Yes, I for the record, I'm generally I try to be a kink positive person. I'm very much like, as long as everyone is of age, consenting, and no one gets hurt,
go for it.
You do you.
Yeah, exactly. And what's the behind the scenes plot? There's some goblins, there's an evil wizard, and there's a lantern with a good wizard trapped inside, right?
Yeah.
The bad guys have the good wizard, and they try to torture or coerce the good wizard trapped inside this magic lantern into showing where the Book of Omens is.
And indeed it works. And he even
he's like, you'll never torture me into telling you, and then they torture him, and he tells.
Yeah, and when the evil wizard holds up the lantern with good wizard's spirit in it, he's like, "Sorry guys, I told him where to find you."
Yeah,
sorry, bro.
He's like, "Sorry, I'm stuck in a lantern. What do you want from me?
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?" And when we cut back to the party in the next room, despite the fact it's a D&D dungeon filled with traps,
right?
There's a fountain full of gold, and the children run over and they go, "Ooh, treasure!"
Yeah,
you could have stopped them like a couple seconds sooner. I mean, you're in a dungeon full of traps, but only after they start playing with the water, reaching for the gold coins, does Lion-O go, "Wait a second. Hey, wait, don't touch anything."
It's a trap.
And indeed, it's a trap. But this time it's like when they disturb the surface of the water, there's a laser going down on it, and it disrupts the laser, which activates a lion face.
Yeah, the reflection of the light like kind of moves across the wall, and it hits the eyes of this like lion bust.
That's kind of cool. Like I said, I'm stealing this. Yeah, for D&D game. And I thought maybe it was going to start shooting lasers or
eye lasers.
Activate. Okay, people. I was hoping for some eye lasers, and you don't know how excited I was when the eyes of the statue of the lion on the wall started to glow, and I was like, are they gonna have to like Mission Impossible, like dodge eye lasers? Actually, the room just starts filling with water.
See, that'll be your D&D campaign. Save that. Yeah, save that for your D&D campaign.
Yeah, that one's going away. Eye lasers are coming.
So the big gray, I remember this scene because the big gray guy starts panicking because he's like, he mentions that he can't swim.
So yeah, at all. And then when he tells them that, Lion-O with the rest of them, because he's off on a ledge,
right,
like a cat, like trying to stay away from water. Everyone else is in the water, and Lion-O and the group, Tigra, Chitara, and the gang, they're like, "Oh, we'll just wait. There's a grate at the top of the ceiling." Such a trope. There's a grate at the top of the ceiling. Yeah. We'll just wait for the room to fill with water, and we'll float to the top and escape.
Wouldn't it be
this
fun?
Guy just said he can't swim.
But also, wouldn't it be like, imagine that being your plan and then getting to the top and finding out that, oh, the grate is actually like rebar that is like cemented in. And it's like, oh, shit.
Wow, we should have spent the last 5 minutes coming up with a
better plan. Yeah.
And like, shocker, guess what doesn't come out easily? The grate at the top of the room. But there's like a weird, this is a fast-paced show, and I feel it could have benefited emotionally if it slowed down a bit, but you give and take.
Right, yeah.
You either have the plot progress fast, or you have it be boring to younger audience and slow down and talk about emotional stuff, or linger on emotional scenes. And indeed, as they're floating upwards, Panthro's like, "Well, this is the end, guys." And he just starts sinking.
Yeah, he sinks to the bottom, and it's like,
Lion-O tries to save him, but as he's swimming down,
right, he swims down and then sees him like sink to the bottom, and then he just gives up and swims back up.
He realizes he can't hold his breath, and he just swims back up.
He just swims back up, and he's like, "Well, he's dead."
We're not even exaggerating. Lion-O swims back to the top, and he's like, "Guys, he's gone." And I'm like, "You don't try too hard."
Yeah, right. He gave up. Like,
we established that Chitara is really athletic. Could someone else go and save him? By the way, Lion-O, you held your breath for like 6 seconds.
Yeah.
And I know cats aren't great in like water, but like maybe take a bigger breath.
He's like, well, I did my part.
Comes to the surface.
I gave
what are you gonna do?
I gave it the old college try.
I gave it the old maximal try. Cheers. Pour one out for. And so, you know who can hold their breath? Panthro, apparently.
Yeah, the guy who can't swim.
Because he can't swim.
He sinks to the bottom and he sees like a hatch at the bottom, and he looks over and just like smiles.
I love that shot. He just looks over like, and I'm like, why are you smiling? What if let's say he gets the hatch open. He does. Yep. Let's say he swims through whatever tube that is. He does. Let's say it miraculously comes out above the room. I'm not sure how physics works, but usually that's not how water rises. But you know, there's counter pressure and stuff, so maybe it pushes him through the tube a little bit, and he gets out on the other side.
Let me tell you, as someone who can't swim, when you
that
sink,
sounds pretty horrifying, huh?
He is unrealistically calm for someone who can't swim and sinks to the bottom.
He's falling like this, like with his arms like limp, and he's sitting on the bottom like calmly looking around. No, man.
No.
You would be kicking and screaming and slashing.
Yeah, like I said, as someone who can't swim, like if you end up like deep underwater, because it's happened to me, ungodly terror. Like you are not sitting at the bottom,
which makes your heart rate go fast, which makes you use oxygen faster. Which this guy made peace with death way too soon.
Yeah, you were not
almost
sitting at the bottom.
As Lion-O made peace with him dying. This guy made peace with him being like, well, I had a good run. Like Buddhist levels of calm sinking to the bottom there.
Well, this is my fate.
Like literally he's just like sinking and he's like, hey, there's a hatch.
Cool.
Sweet. And so
I guess I'm not dying today.
And indeed he gets to the tube on that leads to the room right above it, coincidentally. And he calmly walks over to the grate where he sees the claws and the fingers of all of his friends drowning. Don't take your time, just walks over to it and effortlessly, which makes me wonder, like, were the others not strong? Or I guess if you try to lift it, because you just push yourself underwater, because the guy just grabs the grate and like, and tosses it to the side. And this is where I actually like died laughing. If you pause it on this mark, they're not there like scrambling for air. When he moves it, all of them are clustered together in this little square, and they're just looking up at him with calm, like satisfied faces. Like, yeah, Siege is using it as the
show art. Yeah, and what especially kills me is like if you look in like the bottom corner, if you look at Snarf, like his face, like that's a fucking mood right there.
Snarf has this like little cat face on him, and he's just like staring like intently. Yeah, not as if he's glad he's alive, not as if it's kind of all like, what took you?
I feel like that face is just dying to be a reaction meme.
It looks like a meme. Yeah. Like you said, it's a mood, that cat face. There's a lot captured there.
It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, like and they're all just like very calmly, neutrally, like smiling. And I'm like, y'all weren't worried you were gonna die? You just thought this guy died. And they're like, hey, thanks, buddy. I'm like, we're not going to linger on this like death-defying, like harrowing emotional moment.
And Lion-O was probably just thinking, boy, it's a good thing I gave up on you.
Good thing I let you die. Anyways, let's go. And they run to the end of the dungeon. like actually like joyfully run. And there's some cool lion. They emerge on the side of a cliff, a mountain, and it's the giant door. By the way, 40 feet tall, way bigger than them. Must have been made by giants. Um, it's and the cliff edge. It makes a lion face, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Almost like a giant like derp face or a yawning lion. And they reach the lands between. Journey to the center of the earth.
This is the Tower of Omens, correct? The big the big
waterfall. Yeah,
okay.
something. Maybe? Yeah. And they're like, oh man, there's a whole other like land out here in jungle. We'll never find it. And
oh yeah, I remember. So yeah. So they go through the so they go through they find these big doors behind the waterfall, and they go through,
and that's where it is. Yeah, because the sword gets to work. Chitara, like, touches him in a special place, and he's all like, I have the power
by the power of Grayskull. Oh wait, wrong show.
I am erect. And the sword, he gets his sword working, and he finds out there's another D&D trigger to get to the tower behind the waterfall.
I actually laughed out loud when they open these big double doors and go through, and it's just like another like valley of like nothing.
Right?
I'm like,
behold behold the field upon which I grow my fucks.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's a big troll move. But no, the tower is there and it's behind a waterfall. But yeah, it's like, haha, we did it. We're finally what? It's just like 1,000 miles of wilderness.
It's a very wop wop moment. And so is the end of the episode too when we get there. The end of the episode.
I love that so much.
The end of the episode is a fucking Price is Right fail horn waiting to happen.
So they get to the tower and they're like, hey, how do we get up? And they're like, there's no stairs. There are just all these cat posts. Good thing we're cats. Because indeed, if you were playing a D&D game, this would be a pickle. You'd have to spelunk, use ropes, help each other up. But you know how they get up? Chitara just runs really fast. You know how cats run and jump on a couch and go sideways and use their momentum to propel themselves around the couch?
I have seen a cat scale up the side of a building onto a balcony doing that.
Really?
Yes. Back when I was maybe like 12 years old. We had a balcony that was, I think, maybe about 12 feet off the ground. And our cat, I watched him do this. Our cat like was on the ground, on the grass, and was running and did that like sideways, like basically like
parkour.
Almost like fucking like Skyrimming his way up the side of a mountain. It's kind of what it looked like. That like awkward like jumping maneuver you do in the Elder Scrolls games.
Just like mashing the jump button and hitting any single thing you could get a foothold on.
So this cat like ran and like was doing these series of like little like sideways jumps up the side of the wall on a like diagonal angle until he got onto the balcony.
And it worked.
It was impressive.
Yeah, the way those buildings are kind of speckled, they're rough. Almost. The cats could get some grip, and indeed, it's time for Chitara to do just that. But oh ho ho, this is such a D&D game, man.
Yeah, I know.
The evil wizard shows up when they're about to ascend the tower. Yeah, the good wizard trapped inside of the lantern is like, I'm sorry, my friends.
Yeah, the tumbler comes like smashing through the wall and
really dramatically, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy's vehicle's way too cool for the villain.
This guy's vehicle, well, yes, very much so. But this guy's vehicle, like the tumbler feels so out of place. in this world.
Yeah.
Because this feels like a D&D, like fantasy world.
But and that's why when it shows the flashbacks of the sci-fi parts,
yeah,
with like Iron Man vid windows and like space battles with laser, I'm like, oh right, it's like a mix of fantasy and like magic meets it's Shadowrun. There we go.
Yeah. As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I know very little. Like I'm not terribly familiar with Thundercats, so the things like, you know, the space battles and the Batmobile and stuff like that felt like really caught me off guard when I was watching.
It brings you out of it, and you're like, oh right, there's technology.
This isn't just
advanced technology.
This isn't just a D&D fantasy world.
Yeah, and Cheetara saves the good wizard, I think.
Well,
yeah.
The lantern that he's held in ends up breaking.
It breaks later on, but he chooses to. So I'm gonna yada yada. There's a fight scene. The big guy. He has nunchucks.
The evil wizard hulks out.
Oh, he actually hulks out. I just love the Panthro. He has nunchucks.
Yeah.
I have nunchucks. I remember making them in shop class, like all the other guys like tried to do it. Great fun. I don't know how practical they are against a wizard, but I mean, if all you have is a hammer.
I remember nunchucks were there were, and it was probably because of Ninja Turtles, but I remember when I was a kid in like the late 80s and early to mid 90s, like nunchucks were big. Like every fucking like apartment complex,
hell yes,
apartment building, like poor kid had nunchucks.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that was me too.
Apartment building, poor kid with nunchucks.
Yeah, that was me too.
Yeah, so there's this big dramatic battle. We run into the thing where it's like, oh, and then like Cheetara ran fast and there's flash lines behind her, and then they're fighting as they're climbing and they're all racing for the book, and it's all very cool, but can't really explain it other than it looks really cool. Cheetara indeed does the cat thing and runs on the outside of the tower.
Yeah.
And this is the part where Panther's like, hey kid, your mouth's open. Right? And I'm like, I feel like Christopher can relate to Lion-O in these situations.
Oh yes.
Because indeed, when the big climactic battle at the very top of the tower comes, Lion-O's downfall, even though he can disperse the wizard's magic with his sword, he sees Cheetara get hanging off the edge, and he runs to go like block the laser for her, and he's defeated.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of really, oh geez, I just paused. They really like to animate Cheetara kicking and doing acrobatics and her hair waving. Like it looks fun. I'll say that.
Yes,
lots of different angles to appreciate her physique are present. I can't believe I just paused there. You get top cleavage, you get side cleavage, and what happens here? Oh, so the good wizard in the lantern sees that Lion-O and the gang are going to lose, and he blows himself up.
Yeah.
He sacrifices himself, and this is what I don't get. He sacrifices himself, and it creates this blinding light. And the evil wizard, who again is this giant demon because he hulked up, he goes, "Oh, the light!" And he transforms into a crow. And he says, "I'll get the book from you, you meddling kids." And he just flies away.
Yeah, he flies away as he's like,
that's convenient.
As he's like, next time, Gadget, next time.
Basically. Yeah, and I'm like, did the spell wear out? Can't he just fly back now that the light is gone? And
maybe he's stuck. Maybe he's stuck in bird mode. He's stuck in beast mode for a while.
Oh, he needs to re-energize. There we go.
Yeah,
he ran out of energon.
Yeah.
And yeah, they win, but they lose their wizard friend. And they're like, his sacrifice was not in vain. Look, and his spark, before it returns to the Matrix, it goes and it touches the book, and the book descends in this grand display on a pedestal, and Lion-O gets to get the
He
dungeon reward.
he gets the reward, and he opens the book and is like, "Ooh,
Well, first he's like, finally, all of the answers to everything and all of our questions will be answered. And
opens the book up, and it's empty. It's blank. All the pages are blank.
It's blank. And from this angle, yeah, and he's like, it's empty. There's nothing in it.
I burst out laughing.
I was like, what? What? The dungeon master is such a troll.
Yeah, exactly.
All of this shit. Can you imagine being the good wizard and your spark is going to rejoin with the matrix and you're looking down and the book's just empty and you're like, oh shit. So he's holding it open and it looks like a collector's edition, like DVD. There's like this plastic. Do you know what I mean? Or like a video game, like cassette, like for Fable or something like that. It looks like there's a device inside instead of pages. Indeed. It says nothing. It's empty. Dun dun dun.
Bum, bum,
and that's
bum,
it.
Well,
at least you get to get to spin the wheel.
Yeah, you hear that like sound, and Bob Barker's like, oh.
At least you get to spin. What's that section of The Price is Right called?
I don't know. Spinning the wheel.
Just spin the wheel. 3 games, spin the wheel. 3 games, spin the wheel.
Then you get
showcase
showdown. Yeah.
So we'll see Lion-O, Chitara, Panther on the gang at the showcase showdown.
Yeah, and then Lion-O ends up spinning the wheel and lands on 5 cents. And then
he's like, I'm gonna spin again.
So he spins again.
And he lands on $1.
Yeah. I'm glad you saw where I was going with that.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine how like heartbreaking that would be?
As someone who grew up and watched a lot of The Price is Right with my grandmother, seeing that happen, which would happen every now and then, it's like, fuck, man, that's that guy's story for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And he's the first one to spin. When the first guy spins and he gets like 5, and then he spins again and he gets 15 and he has to settle with 20, and then the other 2 people go over $1 and he wins by default. Those are the best.
Yeah.
People that win at like 15 or 20 cents.
Yeah.
Not the guy that rolled the 5 and the $1. So Lionel. So that's it, folks. We watched Ultimate Warrior and the Ultimate Warrior and the Cheetah Gang.
Yeah. So Cal, you watched you just caught a random episode of Thundercats 2011. Would you tune in next week?
I am actually going to check the rest of this out. I really like this. In the very least, I can appreciate Chitara's athleticism, and at most, I can just shamelessly rip off the dungeon traps.
There you go.
And adventures for my D&D games. So,
yeah, I mean, Chitara is enough for me to keep watching, but I had a lot of fun with it overall.
I had a lot of fun, and even if the episode is like or whatever, the lulzy moments in it and the screen caps in it alone are they go a long way. So it's a hit.
All right. Well, that was episode 33 of the Lasercomb podcast. Best way to support the show, go to patreon.com/lasercomb. Starting at the $5 and up tier, you get bonus preamble audio of this and every other show we do, week in and week out, of us kind of just shooting the shit. You also get a monthly-ish commentary track. We just did one for 1986's Highlander. That was a lot of fun.
That was something.
At the $10 and up tier, much like Cone Killer Confusor, you get to pick a show for us to review a random episode of, as we just did. You also get our news and current events program, Lasercomb Tonight. So if you want to get in on that, go to patreon.com/lasercomb. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/lasercomb, LAZORCOMB. Or you can follow me on Twitter @lasercomb, spelled the same way. Cal, where can they follow you on Twitter?
@neocal, NEO_KAL.
As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, it is Patreon month, and we're gonna keep on rolling with that. So next week we're going to be covering our Patreon subscriber Lewis pitched us Detroit Metal City.
Oh,
which is a show. It's an anime from the mid 2000s that I actually remember seeing an episode or two of back in the day.
Yeah, me too. It was at a time block where I never watched it, but I remember it.
All right, so there weren't per Wikipedia there were apparently only 12 episodes. I thought there was more, but I guess not. So one random number between 1 and 12 at the old random number generator, and here we go. 11. The penultimate episode, Hip Hop 1/Hip Hop 2.
Oh.
Somewhat ironic for a show called Detroit Metal City, but
well, I see. The episodes are like punk and masochist and
pig,
hip hop and
slash drug. Pig slash drug sounds like a
we missed it. That sounds like one week we would have liked.
that sounds like a night on Grindr.
Oh god.
Anyway, so we'll be back next week with episode 34 of the Lasercomb podcast, where we're going to be talking about episode 11 of Detroit Metal City. And until then, I've been one of your hosts, The Siege.
And I'm NeoCal.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Rawr!
I'm a scat man. I'm a scat Everybody stutters one way or the other, so check out my message to you. As a matter of fact, I don't let nothing hold you back. If the scat man can do it, so can you. Everybody's saying that the scat man stutters but does and never stutter when he sings. But what you don't know, I'm gonna tell you right now, that the stutter and the scat is the same thing. Yo, I'm the scat man. Where's the scat man? I'm the scat man. Why should we be pleasing any politician? Reasons would try to change the seasons if they could. The state of the condition insults my intuition, and it only makes me crazy and hard like wood. Everybody stutters one way or the other, so check out my message to you. As a matter of fact, don't let nothing hold you back. If the scat man can do it, brother, so can you. I'm the scat man.